Someone else gets praised for something you worked just as hard on. Everyone claps, you smile, you say, "Good job." But somewhere deep inside, why wasn't that me? That tiny, ugly feeling has a name: ego. It is the source of our greatest ambitions and our most humiliating insecurities. But where did that feeling actually come from? Did we invent it recently? Did the ego suddenly appear when humans built cities, invented mirrors, and started obsessing over social media? Or is that voice much, much older? To answer that, we have to strip away the modern world. Take away the smartphones, take away the mirrors, take away the job titles, the bank accounts, and the designer clothes. Let's travel back 300,000 years. Imagine an ancient human. Let's call him Otis. Otis is standing in the freezing dirt of a prehistoric landscape. The wind is howling. He is covered in animal hides, his hands stained with dried blood and mud. He has just spent 3 exhausting days tracking a wounded elk across a brutal, unforgiving valley. He threw his spear. He tracked the blood trail. He did the grueling work. But in the final chaotic moment of the hunt, another man in the tribe threw the spear that actually brought the animal down. Now, the entire tribe has gathered around the carcass. They are cheering for the other hunter. They are patting him on the back. The elders are nodding in approval, cutting the fattest, richest piece of meat and handing it directly to him. Otis stands in the shadows, shivering in the cold, completely ignored. Does Otis feel a knot in his stomach? Does he glare at the other hunter and think, "I did the hard work"? Does he feel a desperate, burning desire to prove his worth to the people around him? Did ancient humans actually have an ego? To understand what is happening inside Otis's mind, we have to understand what his world actually looks like. Otis has never seen a photograph of himself. He has probably never even seen a clear reflection of his own face, except maybe in a perfectly still, muddy puddle of water. He doesn't have a defined modern identity, but he has something much more powerful and much more terrifying to show him exactly who he is: a tribe. In a group of 50 people surviving in a hostile wilderness, your entire existence depends entirely on how other people perceive you. You cannot survive alone. If you try to hunt a mammoth by yourself, you die. If you try to sleep alone in the woods, you freeze, or you get eaten. Your life depends on the group, and the group is not a democracy. It is a hierarchy. If the tribe thinks you are a highly skilled hunter, your status rises. You eat first, you get the warmest spot near the fire. You are chosen by the best mates. If the tribe thinks you are weak, cowardly, or useless, your status drops. And in the ancient world, dropping to the bottom of the social ladder isn't just bad for your self-esteem. It is a biological death sentence. During a harsh winter, the lowest status members of the tribe are the ones who starve first. Otis watches the successful hunter tear into the roasted meat. The other hunter laughs, wiping grease from his chin, soaking up the admiration of the group. Nobody looks at Otis. And Otis remembers this. That tiny moment of unspoken tension tells us something profound and slightly unsettling about human evolution. Nature didn't just wire us to survive the weather, the starvation, and the predators. It wired us to survive each other. Evolutionary psychologists point to a concept known as status anxiety. For millions of years, the human brain developed a highly sensitive, invisible radar system. It is constantly running in the background, scanning the environment, and asking one relentless, terrifying question: where do I rank? Otis doesn't need a social media profile to constantly compare himself to other people. He has the primal, life-or-death reality of a prehistoric campfire. When he feels that dark sting of jealousy watching the other hunter, it isn't a modern character flaw. It is a biological survival alarm. The alarm is screaming, your social value is dropping. If you do not do something to prove your worth, you will be left behind. Jealousy isn't a toxic modern emotion. It is an ancient piece of survival software. But the ego isn't just about wanting to be the strongest or the best. It is also about the crushing, paralyzing fear of looking stupid. A few weeks later, the snow begins to melt. The tribe is moving camp. Otis is carrying a massive bundle of gathered firewood across a rocky stream. He wants to look strong. He knows the elders are watching. He knows the women are watching. He puffs out his chest. He steps confidently onto a wet, mossy rock, and his foot slips. Otis falls face first into the freezing, muddy water. The bundle of firewood explodes, scattering across the stream. He lands on his back, covered in mud, gasping for air. For 3 agonizing seconds, there is total silence. Then, the hunters standing on the riverbank burst into loud, echoing laughter. What happens inside Otis's body in that exact second? If Otis was a wolf, a bear, or a chimpanzee, he would just stand up, shake the water off his fur, and keep moving. Animals feel physical pain. They feel primal fear, but a wolf does not feel embarrassed. A wolf does not care if the other wolves think it looks clumsy, but Otis is human. His heart rate instantly spikes. His breathing becomes shallow, and then something deeply strange happens to his biology. The blood vessels in his cheeks rapidly dilate. A rush of hot blood floods his face. He breaks eye contact. He stares down at the mud. He scrambles desperately to pick up the wet wood, wishing the earth would open up and swallow him whole. Otis is blushing. Why? Why does the human body have a highly visible, involuntary physical reaction purely for the purpose of looking foolish? Blushing is one of the strangest biological phenomena on Earth. It is a physical response that actively draws attention to the fact that you feel ashamed. To feel embarrassed, your brain has to perform an incredibly complex, high-level cognitive trick. Neuroscientists and psychologists call it theory of mind. Theory of mind is the ability to understand that other people have their own thoughts, perspectives, and judgments that are different from yours. In the freezing river, Otis isn't just thinking about himself. He is thinking about what the other hunters are thinking about him. He has a concept of me. And he knows that the me inside his head is currently looking like an absolute idiot inside their heads. You cannot feel shame if you do not have an ego. You cannot feel embarrassed if you do not possess a mental image of your own reputation. That sudden rush of heat to Otis's muddy cheeks, that is the physical, biological footprint of self-awareness. It is his brain realizing that his social currency has just taken a massive hit. If ancient humans could feel shame, and if they constantly monitored their status, did they also have a desire to stand out? Did they want to be recognized as unique individuals? Fast forward a few months. It is summer. Otis is sitting alone by the edge of a cliff. He has a sharp piece of flint in his right hand. In his left hand, he holds a collection of massive, razor-sharp eagle talons. He acquired them weeks ago scaling a dangerous rock face, risking a deadly fall just to reach an abandoned nest. Now, he sits in the dirt for 5 grueling hours. He meticulously carefully drills a tiny hole through the thick bone of each talon. His fingers bleed. His back aches. Finally, he threads a thin piece of dried animal sinew through the holes. He ties it around his neck. He has just created a necklace. But why? Think about how utterly insane this behavior is from a pure, mathematical survival standpoint. An eagle talon necklace does not keep Otis warm when the snow falls. It does not help him hunt mammoths. It does not protect him from a saber-toothed cat. It costs precious calories, immense effort, and highly valuable time to make, while offering absolutely zero physical utility. And yet, this isn't just a story. Archaeologists have found exactly this. In caves across Europe and Africa, researchers have unearthed pierced animal teeth, carved ivory beads, and carefully painted seashells dating back tens of thousands of years. Long before agriculture, long before cities, long before written language, humans were making jewelry. Why would a prehistoric human spend hours making something completely useless for survival? Because it was profoundly useful for the ego. When Otis walks back into camp wearing that necklace, he isn't just wearing bones. He is sending a psychological broadcast to the entire tribe. He is saying, I am the man brave enough to climb the eagle's cliff. He is saying, I have enough free time, skill, and focus to create something purely beautiful. He is saying, look at me. I am not just a hunter. I am distinct. This is the dawn of personal identity. Before this kind of symbolic behavior, a human was largely just a functional part of the pack, a cog in a meat-gathering, fire-building survival machine. But the exact moment you put on a necklace, you are drawing an invisible line between yourself and everyone else. You are engaging in primitive personal branding. The exact same psychological drive that makes a modern human spend $10,000 on a luxury watch made Otis sit in the dirt and drill a hole through a bone. It is the physical, undeniable manifestation of a single thought, I am special. But the human ego carries a terrifying burden. Once you realize that you exist, once you realize that you are a unique individual with a reputation, a status, and a name, you inevitably realize something else, something dark. One day, you are going to die. And the you that you have spent your entire life building The status, the pride, the memories, the eagle talons will disappear forever. Otis grows old. His joints ache. He can no longer run with the hunting party. His hair turns thin and gray. He spends most of his time sitting near the fire, chewing soft roots, watching the younger, faster hunters bring back the meat. He watches them receive the praise he used to get. He watches them wear the ornaments he used to make. He feels the cold creeping into his bones. He knows his time is ending. One evening, Otis walks away from the campfire. He carries a torch made of animal fat and a hollowed-out bone filled with crushed red ochre pigment. He walks deep into a cold, silent limestone cave, far away from the wind and the noise of the tribe. He finds a smooth, blank wall of stone. He places his wrinkled hand flat against the rock. He puts the bone tube to his lips, and he blows the red dust heavily over his fingers. He pulls his hand away. Left behind on the gray stone is a perfect negative silhouette of his hand, glowing bright red in the flickering torchlight. He stares at it. He doesn't know it, but that handprint will remain there, in the absolute dark for 40,000 years. Why did ancient humans paint on cave walls? Was it a hunting ritual? Was it a plea to the gods? Was it magic? Maybe. But maybe it was the ultimate desperate act of the human ego. It was a prehistoric scream into the void, a way to defy the terrifying reality of death. A desperate attempt to say, I was here, I existed, I mattered. Animals do not try to leave a legacy. A lion does not care if the savannah remembers its name after its heart stops beating, but humans do. Because humans have an ego that extends beyond their physical bodies, and we know this because of what the tribe did when Otis finally took his last breath. When Otis dies, the tribe doesn't just drag his body into the woods and leave it for the scavengers. They don't treat him like a broken tool. They dig a deep trench in the earth. They place his body carefully inside. They gently curl his knees up to his chest, mimicking a sleeping posture. They take his prized eagle talon necklace and place it delicately around his cold neck. They sprinkle his body with the same bright red ochre pigment he used on the cave wall, and they bury him. Why would humans care what happens to a person's body after death? From a strict, emotionless biological perspective, Otis is gone. His meat is rotting. He is no longer a functioning, contributing member of the tribe. Digging a grave in frozen dirt takes immense physical labor. Burying him with valuable tools, weapons, and jewelry is a massive waste of precious resources. But they do it anyway, because to the tribe, the physical, breathing body of Otis is dead. But the idea of Otis is still alive. They bury him with respect because they respect his memory, his identity, his ego. Prehistoric burials are not just evidence of religion or the afterlife. They are the ultimate archaeological proof that ancient humans possessed a deeply complex understanding of the self. They recognized that a human being is not just a collection of bones, muscle, and organs. A human being is a story. And even when the biology fails, the story remains. Did ancient humans have an ego? If you define the ego as a modern psychological neurosis born from capitalism, reality television, and social media likes, maybe not. But if you define it differently, if you define the ego as a deep, relentless awareness of your own existence, a desperate, burning need to be valued by the people around you, a paralyzing fear of looking foolish and losing your place in the pack, and a profound desire to leave a mark on the world before you disappear into the dark, then the ego isn't a modern invention at all. It didn't suddenly appear one day when someone invented the glass mirror. It emerged gradually, over hundreds of thousands of years, as our brains grew larger. Our social networks grew tighter, and our survival became entirely dependent on what other people thought of us. The ego was a survival tool, just like a sharpened stone, just like a perfectly carved spear, just like the mastery of fire. Without the ego, Otis wouldn't have cared if he was a good hunter. He wouldn't have cared if the tribe liked him. He wouldn't have felt the shame required to conform to social rules. He wouldn't have cooperated, competed, or created art. He would have just existed, eaten, and died. The strange thing isn't that a prehistoric caveman named Otis may have had an ego. The strange thing is that you are carrying the exact same ancient system inside your head right now. You are navigating a hyper-modern world of steel skyscrapers, glass screens, and digital networks using a biological software that was coded in the freezing mud by people who painted their hands on cave walls. So the next time you feel a sudden, burning sting of jealousy when someone else gets the credit, or the crushing heavy weight of embarrassment when you make a mistake in public, or the desperate, undeniable urge to prove to the world that you are special, don't judge yourself too harshly. It's not just a flaw in your personality, it's just the ancient human inside you. If this video helped you understand yourself a little better, please leave a like and subscribe. It helps the channel more than you know. Take care and see you in the next one.